Raise your hand if you've ever got tired and feel like you just need a couple days off. Most people would have both hands up right now. That's our world, fast-paced and income-driven. That's why we get caught up in our own lives so often, and that's why it's understandable when most people don't focus on worries that aren't their own. So what makes someone become a humanitarian? Someone whose whole life focuses on the welfare of other humans.
When you go back and you see kids that were living on the streets, kids had no structure, they had no routine, people who had nothing, they didn't have meals. When you see that they're all of a sudden they're waking up, they have structure, they have something to do, they have a meal in their belly, their life changes completely. They, like I said, their self-esteem changes, their self-worth, their ability to know who they are in the world and what they have the potential of becoming. You know, to give that hope, to give that dream, and then to watch people actually use that to do good for themselves and others it's amazing. It becomes an addiction.
And with Serena's help, we'll find the meaning of life to a humanitarian.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been shown that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. We'll match you with the perfect buddy. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
We're offering you a free membership, so please sign up today. Share this with your friends and family, and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
Have a new banner. Good morning.
Wow, you looked at it right away.
Yes. Okay. It's my color.
Busy.
It goes well with my background.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And we're starting a new season. Okay, we're in seasons now. I mean, like you said, we're 2 years in and more.
Two
And I
two
said,
years plus.
time to jazz it up a little bit more, get on a little bit of branding and stuff like that. So yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
And and it was so funny because when we talked about it, it was like, oh, Barbara, I am not a big picture taker.
I'm not either.
And
you're not the only one.
So when you said, gee, Barb, do you have any recent pictures of you? I went, ooh.
Well, I did say too, I was like, well, I can always go to your, Facebook, and you're like, oh, let me look this for
Let me go look and see. The thing is, though, I tend to, you either love being the center of attention or you don't, and it's like, but part of the personality. However, I have really been seriously thinking about, because I have a friend of mine, I'm going to brag for 1 second. A friend of mine one day said, Barb, I was going back through some of the old episodes. Well, Jason. And he said, you look better now than you did like 10 years ago. And I went, well, I received that. But you know what the thing is, I really should get some new pictures taken.
Well, yeah.
Just some new headshots and for speakers. It's because the thing is, it's changing your attitude towards it, which is kind of what to talk about today. Is changing how you look at things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I can either look at it as like, ooh, but I don't like to have my picture taken, because I always feel like I look too set and too, but turn it around to say, hey, you know what? Go in with the attitude that this is going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Rather than a chore. Anything can be made into fun.
Yes.
And it's all in how we look at it.
Yes.
And so that's what I have to take my own advice.
Well, I'm in the same boat with you, Ms. B. I mean, and I think, like you said, with the attitude, and then what's more important, what overrides what you're trying to do. So I feel like, okay, I don't like taking pictures. I really don't, I'm like you. But then I was thinking, I said, okay, Barbara, first of all, you're always, especially helping women understand their purpose, talking about visibility, all that good stuff. You're talking about be you and all that. So, I had to have a self-talk with myself, and I'm like, so how are you even being an example if you don't even want to take a picture of yourself or put yourself out there? I'm like, okay.
Yes, exactly. And so, and that's what happens so often with people. They get stuck in that one little spot, but I don't like to do that. Well, at the beginning, I think sometimes you do have to force yourself to do things. Yeah. But you can learn to do it. The other day, I just had a great compliment, and a lady was talking. She asked me about it. She said, "Oh, where do you get your hair cut?" And I said, "Well, I cut it myself."
You
and
do?
She said,
wow.
"Oh yeah, I've been cutting my own hair for years." And so I'm a she said, "Oh, you cut your own hair?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm a hairdresser. So I know how to cut hair. I just look in the mirror, and on the back, I use a buzzer.
Okay.
So I can cut my own hair." She said, "Oh, I can't imagine learning how to cut your own hair." A friend of mine, then she said to me, she said, isn't there anything that you can't do? And I said, well, there's lots of things I can't do. But then my girlfriend, who was sitting just a little over from us, turned around. She said, yeah, but if she doesn't know how to do something, she'll find out and figure out how to do it.
Or find somebody that know how to do it too, to even,
to teach. Exactly. And that I thought was, wow, that is a great compliment, because that's how we have to approach life. Yeah. We might not know how to do something, and we might feel uncomfortable, and and it's out of our comfort zone. But you know what? If it is something that can help somebody else, then I truly believe that it's my duty to get in touch with my purpose, my passion, my drive, which is what you talk about, to get the message out there. And that's what I think is just so essential, because that is how the world is going to change. by us getting our messages out there, because we have all gone through something.
Yes.
We've all gone through something. And so somebody coming up we're on the other side of it, and we can look back and say, oh yeah, that was horrible, but this was the lesson I learned, or this was the gift that came out of it. Because that happened, I'm now doing this now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like one of the things yesterday, I was doing a post, and I was talking about, people coming up to retirement. And I said, you know what, one of the things that when David died, and I realized that when I woke up from my widow's fog, and I realized that I had no idea of who I was outside of all the labels that I had put on myself in society, a wife, mother, daughter, divorced failure, that kind of stuff. There are so many people coming up to retirement age, because I work with baby boomers, because I'm a baby boomer. But so I work with them that are coming up to retirement age, and they have no idea of who they are outside of their job description or their job title.
See?
And it doesn't matter if you are a shop mechanic or you're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. If you do not know who you are within that, what you do, it is going to make it so much harder to transition into retirement.
Yes.
And unfortunately, statistics are showing that so many people are falling into alcohol, drugs, or suicide because they're not making the transition well.
Yeah, it's difficult for them. Yeah.
And it's scary. And the example that I use so often is my dad and his best friend, Mo. They started with the company on the same day. They worked together for years, for all the years, 35 years. They retired on the same day at the same age. My dad lived to be 102.
That's awesome.
Mo was dead in 6 months.
Oh,
he died in 6 months. He dropped dead of a heart attack with absolutely no symptoms of heart disease, nothing.
Wow.
And that he's an example of what's happening for people. They're blaming it on heart disease or stroke or whatever.
I hear a lot,
But so much of it is because they're not transitioning well. They don't have a sense of what you talk about. You talk about having a purpose, having passion in your life. What's driving you?
Yes.
Well, when their only identity is in what they do, what they did, and they have no identity outside of that. And if they don't know how to find it, it's yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, Barbara, because I see more, because I got a day job. You have a day job too.
Yeah.
And in corporate I have, and I'm seeing more and more people that are, like you said, getting that, either they're moving towards their retirement age, or they already surpassed it,
and don't want to quit,
working, and they don't want to leave. And I asked the question to them just to be, curious and see what might be, because how we're always curiosities.
Yeah.
Of us. And they said, well, Barbara, I just don't, if I do, what am I going to do? I'm going to go home. I mean, what do I do if I leave here? And then some of them are staying on because of coverage of medical care.
Yeah. And right now, statistically, 25% of baby boomers don't have any retirement savings.
Yeah.
They can't afford to retire.
They have to continue. Yeah.
They have to continue. So it's just such a huge, and God has just put it on my heart that this is who I need to talk to and about, and just and get more visible about. That there's no shame in it. And you might, one of the things that I realized for myself, I had no idea of what I wanted to do, but I knew what I didn't want. And sometimes I will have a client that, well, Barb, I don't know. I have no idea what, and they have no idea. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter. You don't have to right at this moment. It's not a today you have to make a decision and it's going to be written in stone for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Think about one thing that you don't want to do. Think about what you don't want, and then think about something that's the opposite. It's a great exercise.
That is a good exercise. I like that.
What don't you want? Okay, well, if I don't want that, what is the opposite of that?
And then what's the next step, Barbara? I'm thinking the next step, once you find out what it is, then you work towards that part.
Because then once you change your paradigm shift, it's a paradigm shift. We talk about, you and I have talked about going from mindset into mind shift and then into mind flow. Okay. So when you have your mind set on that you are this corporate executive or you're a shop mechanic or whatever it is, that's your mindset. That's who you, that's what you do. And that's who you think you are. But now if you can say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. I can't do that anymore, whatever the scenario is. All right, well, if I'm not going to do that, what's one thing that I could do that's opposite of that? Once you have that one little opening, the opening could be the size of a mustard seed, but it's an opening.
It's an opening, yeah.
It's an opening. Once you have the opening, then the universe can go in and say, okay, well, you don't want to do that. Ooh, well, what do you think about this? And it'll start. It's that one little shift. It'll start.
But you got to do that. I like how you have set, shift, and flow. Wow.
We have to. We have to. But the thing is, the funny part is that so often you will not realize that you're doing it until you look back.
Look back at it.
And I can look back and go, oh, that was the day I shifted.
And
had no idea that it was going to take me in the trajectory that I am here now, to this moment, this day, talking about this thing. But I remember the day I shifted, and it was I don't want to do that, but I need to do something.
Yes.
And where can I start? One little thing. And I started with doing something completely different and that's when I got into online marketing.
Okay.
If you had told me that, I would have said, no, that's not something I would do. And now I love talking to people about things that they can do online. I spend most of my time online, and it's fun.
And you meet the most amazing people. I mean, because a lot of them you bring, you have them guest bring on the show. Like we're going to have Angie come on in a little bit, and it's just amazing. Like you said, because of technology and everything else, how it opened our, like you said, the mindset. So now it's not just set in one area. You have, and I know you talk to people globally.
Oh, I talk to all over. Yeah, because you know what? This is not an isolated incident. It's worldwide.
Yes.
People are going to retire. How you retire is up to you.
Up to you. And see, and you're teaching people, which I know this is getting into your workshop tomorrow, is you're teaching them, don't just stay in the mindset mentality.
Right.
See, because so many people, when you think about it, everybody always just says mindset and they stop right there. And what you're doing, Barbara, is now you're just saying, okay, no, let's do the 3 levels of this. There's a process.
Right.
There's the set, mindset. Then you have the shift.
The shift. And that shift, the thing is, people think that the shift has to be something huge.
Yeah, it could be like...
That's what I always thought my purpose had to be, some humongous thing like Mother Teresa type scale. Well, no, it doesn't.
Said that. Yeah.
It can be one little speck kernel of an idea.
Yes.
And chances are when I can get people to stop, my usual take a breath.
Say, You always,
Take a
every
breath.
time you do that, you get me. You know that, don't you?
Take a breath. I love that. Take a breath. Yeah, the day that I got you on, it was water. Oh, I still love that.
That was like, I got to look at that clip and like pull that
That's
out.
what I was just going to think. We should get that clip out.
Get that clip.
Take a breath.
Take a breath.
But then lots of times that little kernel of an idea, that little kernel of a shift will come from something that happened when you were 6 or 7.
Okay.
That's where there was one little seed. Like I can remember as a kid thinking, wouldn't it be fun to be on the radio?
Oh, look at you.
And here I am.
Yeah.
But now I'm 72. It didn't happen in my 30s and 40s. You know?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it'll never happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Grandma Moses didn't start painting until she was 88.
Yeah. You can't put the age limit, you know, that on their timing. It's going to happen in your timing. Yeah.
Right. And that's where the mindset is. Can you imagine if she said, well, I'm 88, I can't start painting?
And then it never would have happened. Yeah.
It never would have happened.
And that's why you have to go to those process, the shift, and then
get into then you're going to flow. And then all of a sudden you're going to realize, oh, wow, my life is ease and flow. Oh, wow. I love my life. I'm doing things that I've never, ever thought that I could possibly do. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the life of ease and flow. And you're not worrying about the stuff you can't do. You know, and one of my I remember the first total insights that I got when I became a personality science trainer was quit beating yourself up for the things that you're not and celebrate the things that you are.
Yes. Oh,
huge.
Say it again.
All right. I'm going to do one of my people. I'm talking to you. Quit beating yourself up for the things that you're not and celebrate the things that you are.
Yes.
And so many people don't do that.
Yeah.
And me included. I mean, it has been a lesson
me too.
of comparing. And in fact, I'm going to tell on myself, you know, social media has not always been my forte of consistently doing social media. And so, you know what, it's like anything else. And I realized that I was comparing what I do on social media with these other people that do these flashy reels and all these fun things. That's not me. I'm more of an informative and let's teach. I'm more of a teacher. So now that I've accepted that, oh, well, okay. And so I can look at somebody else's reel or say and laugh at them and think that, wow, that is so fun. But gee, I'm so glad that I don't have to do it. I've accepted the fact that that's not me. And so now I don't compare myself to other people's social media and I do my own thing. And now I'm starting to get people that go, oh, Barb, I loved your post. Because I'm being consistent.
And you're being your true self. You're being who you are.
I'm being my true self. I have quit beating myself up for what I'm not.
Yeah.
And I'm celebrating the things that I am.
And you know, it's funny. I'm going to say a little take on that, just because can put my social media hat on right now. Yeah. And I was just talking to 2 people just the other day, and they were in a crying mode. I mean, they were like that sad, not crying happy, crying sad. And I was like, what's wrong? Yeah. And they were like, well, I put post out and, you know, I just get 1 or 2 or 5, 10 people. And I see somebody doing just some dance or whatever. And they get 200 or thousands of people. And, you know, they're like, what's wrong with me? And I was like, whoa, I got to fix this quick. I have to fix this really quick because now they went down that road, what you were talking about.
Yeah. We all do it.
I had to go to them and I said, no, we all have our own uniqueness.
Yeah.
They have theirs. Yep. You have yours.
Yep.
Both are very important.
Yes.
So don't look at the numbers of people saying, well, they have 10,000, you have whatever. Look at the fact that what you're giving out of your uniqueness, and the people, the 10 or 5 people that's seeing you, that's watching you, that's passing, looking at you, is getting from you. And that's what you have to think about.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that comparison and that all that, you get caught up, go down that rabbit hole, and you sometimes you can't get out of it.
Right. Yeah. Because if you try to be somebody else, then how is your tribe going to find you if you're trying to be somebody else? They're going to find them, but they're not your tribe. But they're not your tribe. And we've talked about it before. There are over 7 billion people on this planet. Oh, come on. There's room for everybody. I don't care if you put 10, like I'm in the wellness space. I don't care if you put 10 wellness people in the same room. There are millions of us, and we could put hundreds in a room, and you still can't service the world. So quit trying. Find your tribe. Yeah. Find your people.
And I like when you say that. I always love when you say that about the 7 billion people. You got me saying that on other shows. And the thing is that like you said, let's go back to your scenario where you said put 10 wellness experts, consultants, whatever, in one room. Yeah. Well, everybody's going to resonate with somebody different.
Somebody different.
Yeah. They might resonate. They love Barbara Ellison. They'd be like, oh yeah, I want to work with you. But then they might love Bonnie Boo, and for another reason. But that doesn't mean that Barbara Ellison is not better or worse or whatever.
Exactly.
It's everybody has a different take, and they resonate with different people.
Right. It's like the sheep that hear the shepherd's voice.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love that story because it's absolutely the truth.
Yes.
Shepherds sing and call their sheep, and the sheep know their voice. They know their shepherd's voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, your tribe will hear your voice. All you have to do is get it out there consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And don't worry if somebody else's sheep is coming into your pen. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Don't try to go into their pen. Be in your own.
Get in your own.
Be in your own.
Be in your own.
So that's my animal analogy for the day.
I love it.
I'll give you an example. 1 second. A friend of mine, her name is Sherry the Shepherd. If you want something funny, look her up. She's on TikTok. Sherry the Shepherd. Mm-hmm. She herds goats for fun.
Herds goats.
And yet she exercises them for fun. And so she takes videos. She puts videos up all the time of her goats. Anyways, but she will run a workshop, and she will do it, and people will come to run with her goats because it is so great. Mm-hmm. Because the sheep will hear the voice of the person that they're running with. But Sherry can call them, and they will stop and come back to her because they know her voice. And it is just the funniest things. People love to exercise to do something different. And so that's one of the things that she does. And I'm like, okay. I keep telling her I'm going to go down and do one with her. But
I do got to pull her up because you mentioned her before, and I was like, I got to pull her videos
up on TikTok.
With these sheep.
She is funny. It's funny to see these goats, and they jump and they laugh, and they know her voice. And if she goes somewhere where they can't go, they'll paw at the door for her to come out, and it's just hysterical. They're funny. They're funny if you want a funny video. And so the last thing, if you're having a tough day, go watch funny videos.
Oh,
go
yeah.
Watch cat videos or goat videos, chicken videos, whatever it is, you need to laugh. So that's it.
So talking about laughing and having fun and putting a smile on our face, we're going to get that from our guest that is coming on, Miss Angie. And I can't wait for her to talk about the black hole of pain. And I can't wait for her to talk about releasing trauma through body and everything else, because I tell people that's really hidden somewhere, and people don't really realize how deep that is. So we have Mrs. Expert, and again, Barbara found another queen. So
I tend to bring on people. I'm going to tell. I bring on people who I want to learn from, because we can all learn from everybody else. So
Whoa.
just be open. And if you get one little nugget out of anything that you listen to, then it was worth listening to it.
Yes, it was. So before we bring up this wonderful queen, Miss Angie, we got to, make our sponsors a little bit happy. So let's make our sponsor a little bit happy, and then we'll bring her on.
When you do nothing, nothing happens. Best time to take action is now. This is the time to work on you and your business. So I've created a group, an online academy for professionals and entrepreneurs. Power Partners will help you to start helping yourself.
Helped me change my life and my business.
Not a Toastmasters, it's not a BNI, it's not any of these, but it is. So it's all this stuff in one place.
Get the results that you deserve right now. So what are you waiting for? Let's make it happen. See you in Power Partners.
Ta-da!
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Barbaras.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well. So good to see you.
You too.
Yes. So tell us about you.
Yes, I'm ready.
So, hi, everybody. My name's Angie Barrett, and my pronouns are she or they. I am a child abuse survivor. I grew up, my abuse started when I was very little. Happened, it was friends of my parents and happened at church. And because I was so young when it started, I had no memory of it. And so it was just completely in the recesses of my mind, that with no connection to it. But I did have this black hole of pain, like Barbara mentioned. That's what I describe it as, just this deep pain. And I grew up, I became a registered nurse, and but never could quite escape this pain that I had inside of me. And about 7 years ago, I had some stuff happen in my life that I was betrayed by a friend, by someone very close to me, and that unlocked the memories of my child abuse. So I started having my abuse memories come out. And because of that, I started on a journey to heal from this horrific child abuse I experienced. And on my journey, I learned, it was through multiple different ways. So I am a yoga instructor. I became a yoga instructor and I was teaching yoga. And even at that, I've practiced yoga for years. Yoga became too structured, too regimented for me. And I learned so I became trauma informed. I'm a trauma informed yoga instructor. That is a thing, by the way. And it is somewhat different than traditional yoga. And I learned how powerful play is in healing. And so I started studying it and researching. And I learned that all mammals, humans included, were born with our brains pre-wired with 7 circuits. And play is one of those circuits. So if you think about how children learn, or how goats learn, or how we learn playing with goats. By the way, I've taught goat yoga, and that is one of the most popular things I have ever done. People love it. But so thinking of animals, we still have that wiring in our brain for play and for learning how to do that, and for being able to reprocess our brain through play. And we don't tap into that as adults. And so I started on this journey for me, learning how to use play to heal from my trauma, my black hole of pain. And it was phenomenal. I just was able to release so much pain, so much of that self-doubt, that the negative critical talk that you were talking about, Barbara, the comparing myself to others. And I did it through play and playful movements. And now it has evolved into me working with others using play to help them learn what their body is telling them, so they can tap into their own inner sense of, I really am amazing. And letting go of the brainwashing that we experience, all the negative self-thoughts that we have.
Yeah. Ooh, that is amazing. Wow. I mean, it just, I just think about Angie, and I know Barbara wants to say something real quickly too, is that with trauma alone, a lot of people don't understand how deep it could go, to the point where, like you said, Angie, it just, it goes back, it stores itself somewhere. And then, like you said, something triggers it. And a lot of times people, and I'm glad that you found that way in that journey, because sometimes it could flood a person so bad that it's like, oh my God, everything's just flooding at the same time. And that could
they don't know how to handle it.
Down.
They can't handle it.
I will admit, I did get there. I was at that point. And it is. And so but I also define trauma. Trauma doesn't have to be something big like what I experienced as child abuse. Trauma is, I think all of us have trauma, quite frankly.
Right.
It can be somebody saying something mean to you when you're a child and not knowing how to process that. And then that gets stored and helps to form that negative belief or that negative cognition. So we all have it. We might not know exactly what caused it, but yeah, I think we all do have it.
Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes I still battle. I tell Barbara, you know, my story, Angie, when I between 8 and 10, I was bullied very heavily in high school. I mean, in grammar school and a little bit in high school. And sometimes now being adult, I still have to work on that, because when some people might say some things and trigger what happened when I was younger, and I'm like, okay, Barbara, you hear that, you know what to do with that. See, it's like I had to talk myself through it and say, don't go there thinking that you're the worst person in the world, how stupid they told you that you was when you were younger, because somebody just said now that you don't know what you're talking about. It could be something, the weird part about it is it could be something that they didn't even mean, or they don't even realize what they said.
Right.
Like they might say, well, Barbara, do you think you know all of that? Or do you think you're that smart to understand that part? And all of a sudden, clicked in my head, well, you were stupid. You did it. You know, I'm hearing those little kids saying that. And I was like, so all of a sudden either I say, I don't know, or I get defensive and say, what do you mean I don't know?
Exactly. We react because, and it's from our inner, like I always call it my inner child, and I call her Little B. Her name is Little B. And because we never know where that comes from.
Yeah.
And yet all of a sudden there have been times where I've been sitting in meditation and the tears will just be flowing. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And something will come up that was really, when you think about it, seemingly at the time a mountain. And yet looking back as an adult, it's like, seriously, you were upset about that? Because in your adult mind, you know that it was unrealistic to be so upset about. But at the time, as a kid, you can't process it.
It's overwhelming. And I teach people, what I teach people is, so for some of us, myself included, I can't sit in meditation to come to those, to come to those realizations like you do, Barbara.
Yeah.
Sitting is very triggering for me. Not only that, if you can't tell, I have a lot of energy, so I'm always talking and moving. And so I teach people how movement can actually help get them into a meditative state. I hear people say all the time, I'm terrible at meditation, I can't do it. And I say, well, let's find a different way. There's always ways. And so I work with people using play. And I'll give an example. People don't always know what I mean when I say play, because we don't play as adults. So Barbara, you gave the example of being bullied and feeling like people saying that you didn't know what you're talking about. So what I would do with a client is I would take them and we would stomp around like elephants. We'd stomp around the room and pretend to be an elephant. And then just that stomping around and being as big as you want and not really actually caring and taking your hips and swatting a tree out of the way. And then as we do that, I see you doing that, Barbara.
Yeah.
I'm liking it.
I can see that.
It starts to change how we feel inside. So rather than that negative self-talk and even beating ourselves up for why am I believing this? I learned that when I was a child. I'm a grown-up now. It's like, oh no, we don't even deal with any of that. We just change the internal feeling and be like, oh wait, no, my body's telling me I do get to be as big as I want. I get to knock that tree out of the way with my hips and be an elephant and whatever it is. So I have different moves for different things, but it's that play, that pretending to be something else takes us out of our human experience. So then we don't even re-traumatize or beat ourselves up because we're like, why are we even thinking that? We're grown up. We shouldn't believe that. Well, I do that to myself. So I'm talking to personal experience, thinking, why do I believe I'm worthless? That was one of my negative beliefs. And so play gives an opportunity to just completely let go of the narrative, whatever it is inside, and just tap into that internal sense inside, because in our internal, we know what it is, but our mind is what blocks us so that we can't always tap into that.
I love that. And you know what, Angie, because I was, when you said that, the elephant, I felt, and it was funny because I put my butt, I was like, move out the way, get out of there.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes you feel, like, wow, I can do this. I'm not what they say I am. And, like trauma, like you said, it doesn't happen. Something happens in different pieces in life. And I had to realize that, because I was like Barbara, one day I was sitting, and I've been doing this a few times the past months, that I would just sit somewhere and then start crying, just crying. I'm like, where is it coming from?
Where is it?
What's going on? I'm like, am I losing it? It's like, why am I? And it wouldn't be just like a sniff cry. It would be like cry. And then I started thinking about, what? I didn't realize some things going back in my past, I didn't let go.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a release. That was a release.
It was a release.
I'm releasing something that I didn't release a long time, and now it's that time to release that.
Mm-hmm. And now, as you are an adult and getting into things like of movement, like that's with me. If I'm feeling a little down, I've told you before, I get up and do the twist.
Yes.
I put on Chubby Checker and I do the twist.
Yes.
Because it raises my level. And that's the beauty of having people on that do different things.
Yes, and teach.
And it all comes back to, don't compare yourself what you need to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Duh. Just just do your own thing. If it makes you feel good, so what? I don't care if you dance around your bedroom, in flip-flops and a hat. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're wearing or what you're doing. But if it raises your level, then that's the thing.
I'm going to jump in here really quick, and 100% I agree with you. I'm also going to say that there are many people who don't feel comfortable letting go, having that freedom. And so I work with a lot of people who, whether they have big trauma like child abuse like mine, or it's trauma with a little t, there is a differentiation. Trauma with a little t is typically like the little things that happen that build up over time. Trauma with the big T is typically defined as something like child abuse, spousal abuse, car accidents, things like that.
Yeah.
So I work with a lot of people who have fear of being silly, or of even letting themselves, or even fear of feeling into that release. That's very uncomfortable for many of us. Most of us in today's society, we're so disconnected from our bodies. We're like a head with a body that functions like a robot, because we don't like to feel our emotions. And so a lot of the people that I work with aren't able to put music on and dance. It takes a lot of work to be able to get to the point where you can find that freedom with your body, to be able to move, to be able to release. And so I'm going to come back to, once again, play. Pretending to be an animal gives that opportunity to step out of the human experience. So you're not thinking about what are people thinking. Even if you're alone in your room, a lot of us are having those negative self-thoughts.
Yes.
I can't dance. I can't do this. No, what if somebody sees me? What if I fall? What if, whatever it is. And so pretending to be an animal takes us out of that human experience. I mimic animals a lot. That's what I do, because that's, for me, how I was able to heal, to take me out of whatever it was that I was experiencing in my human experience, to feel into that mammalian, our primal bodies, our primal nervous systems. So yes, dancing is fantastic. And just, once again, knowing that not everybody is able to feel free to do that.
Yeah. It comes down to find your own thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the thing is. Find your thing that works for you. And don't compare yourself, back to the same conversation. Don't compare what you do to somebody else's. Don't try to be somebody else.
And if it's uncomfortable to begin with, that's okay. It's uncomfortable to begin with. And so maybe keep going. Just because it's uncomfortable doesn't necessarily mean that it's not something that will be beneficial for you.
Right.
Yeah. So true. So true. Exactly. Wow. Well, I wish I had you, Angie, when I was younger. I had you when I was going through all that other stuff. So I know, a little, because, we all have our stories. I always say to people, that's how we connect.
Yes.
And with you, Angie, like you said, you had your trauma, sexual abuse. And I know I was sexually abused when I was 23.
I'm
So
sorry.
I know, but see, mine wasn't like yours. And that's why I'm thinking about how, like you said, it was so put in your brain, like locked back. And then all of a sudden, it came out when that trigger came. And with mine, I was blaming myself because I was like, okay, I must have did something to cause this person to do this to me. And then I was like kind of held back and not talking to people. And I got in my shy mode again. I got like in that little cocoon, as I call it. And one day somebody, it was weird because you never know who's going to trigger a good or bad. Now, this was a good trigger. So my cousin just one day said, snap out of it. She yelled at me and I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, why are you in this little like, she's like, get out of that. Because she was very outgoing and, so she was the opposite. And I was like, what do you mean snap out? You don't know what I'm talking about. She said, I know. Snap out of it.
Right.
And then she said, you too, you love people too much, bro. You care too much. I get it. She said, whatever happened, because I never really told her in detail. But when she said snap out, it was like something just like penetrated in my mind, like a jolt. Like, okay, well, maybe I should snap out of this. I mean, it took a process, but it was just funny how she just said just one day, snap out of it. So I have to thank her. You have to thank the people in your life that maybe helps you with the good triggers.
Yeah.
Help you get out of it. Yeah.
So one of the things that comes to mind for me too is that sometimes when we are going through something, we can't see the other side of it until somebody steps in and goes, you know what? Gee, I've done that too.
Or I've been there.
I've been there, done that. That's why it's so important to get your message out there, because somebody listening today might be just getting to the, ooh, that's it. Ooh, oh, and they're like, oh, and it's sinking in that something is not quite right. Not that it's wrong, but it's not quite right, that there is something there that they need to deal with. And that's why it's so important to get your message out there, because you can touch a life.
I like to tell people when they're going through that, when they're starting on that journey, it's going to be very uncomfortable. In fact, change brings about discomfort, and discomfort oftentimes brings about change. And I'm going to come back to movements for just a minute. Finding a movement, it doesn't have to be something big like stomping like an elephant. Any sort of rhythmic, repetitive movement, those two things, rhythmic and repetitive, are very soothing to our nervous systems. Come back to thinking as a baby. What do we do for babies that are crying or upset?
We rock them
front or back. And so a lot of times when I get into that discomfort of starting to change, something needing to be different. In fact, I don't know if you've noticed it, a couple times I've started doing it today. I just walk side to side. Some people side to side is more comfortable. Some people front to back is more comfortable. And so something even simple like that, a simple movement, can help to shift or help people to navigate or tolerate that that discomfort of change a little bit more. So even something simple, it doesn't have to be very big. A lot of times I tell people just wiggle your fingers, even something like that. It's any sort of movement. And then if you want to add some play to it, pretend that your fingers are jellyfish. So let them open wide and then come back. So once again, it doesn't have to be big. It can just be something simple and soothing. And for people that have maybe arthritis or that's uncomfortable for, maybe your arms. And so it doesn't have to be the fingers, or just something that is like a floating, repetitive movement. Rhythmic and repetitive is very calming to our systems.
I have to say this so fast. I hate time. Time goes by too quick. But I gotta say, Angie, thank you so much for bringing up the rocking and everything. Because it just brought me back when I was younger. And my mother even thought I had a problem. She was about to take me to that, at that time, a counselor, whatever they called them. Because now I'm talking about my age. And I used to rock. Just like this. And I did it, first of all, when you're real young, sometimes people say, well, that's just a part of being younger. Maybe you're going through whatever they say, right? But then I was getting older and I was still doing this. So she thought, as my mother would put it, what are you, retarded? That's how she does. She just outspoke stuff like that. Love you dearly, Ma, love you. But she just thought something was wrong. So now I was getting bullied at school. Then now my own mother thinking something is wrong with me. So, and then my dad, thank God, like I said, angels in your life, came and he said, leave her alone. This might be calming her down. This might be something that she has to deal with. And it's going to grow out of it or whatever, which I did. But then now I found out, Angie, and that's why I'm glad you mentioned that. I started doing that again when I need to like calm myself down or I'm feeling whatever. And it's not like a hard rock, but it's just like, I just like really like, like you're saying, like when you do this, and I find myself doing this again, I say, oh, this is coming back, but in a good way, I hope.
It's self-soothing. It's one of those moves that we are able to calm ourselves down. Think back to babies. We have that same wiring as adults. We just don't tap into it. And especially people who are neurodivergent with autism or on the spectrum, they oftentimes will rock because that's very soothing. They get super overwhelmed. So for those of us that are neurotypical, it's similar. We still have that same need for a soothing movement, whatever it is. And so once again, repetitive and rhythmic is really calming to our systems.
Yeah, and I go side to side, and I can, right now. I mean, I can. It's like, oh yeah, I do that. I do that, but not being aware of it.
Not being aware of it.
It's like, oh yeah, I do that, but I go side to side.
See,
so bring some consciousness to it. I have to do this when I meditate because I can't sit still in meditation.
To try that.
But if I have a play, then I'm able to relax into it even more. And so I teach people, notice how, like, check in with your body. What's happening with your shoulders? What's happening with your gut? A lot of times when we're stressed or in tension, our gut twists. So when we go into a relaxed state, our gut untwists. So people feel actually a release in their gut. Maybe you yawn. And so it's, as you do that, exploring what signs is your body giving you that it's going into relaxation. And so then when you are in a stressful situation or in those times of change, you can come back to those movements because you've already pre-programmed your brain to know this is soothing to me. I can do this. This will be beneficial.
I'm going to try that. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Now you made me feel so soothing and so relaxed that when I do the rock, that is not me going crazy.
That is your body knowing what you need and you being in touch enough to know how to tap into that. So bravo, I say.
Yes.
Yeah, that is so good.
And bravo to Barbara too, because she realized she does this and didn't even realize.
I didn't even realize that was the thing because I do it. I mean, people, Barb, you sway. And I always it was like, I always thought I was just swaying to the music. The only problem was lots of times there wasn't any music on. So I would say, oh, well, I'm swaying to the internal, to the mental music. But now, thank you. That's absolutely, because I do. I catch myself doing that. And I can think of times that even just yesterday I was standing and I was rocking.
Yep.
Just swaying.
So now you don't even have to, I mean, you can be doing it to the internal music in your head, but that's your nervous system.
Yeah.
I'm doing what my body wants.
Yeah. Yeah.
My body needs this.
And right. And that's a key thing. Our bodies need it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with us.
Nope.
Our bodies need it.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you.
So Angie, please tell people, I do have your link down there, but it's any kind of way how they can contact you and any last thoughts that you have.
Yeah, the best way is through my website, angiebarrettmovement.com. I do spell my last name Berrett. And I do have a free movement sequence for if you feel like you're overwhelmed and going to lose your cool or flip your lid. So if you want to download that, it's one of those fun, playful movements that I do. And just know that whatever level of movement you can do in your body is going to be beneficial. It doesn't, like Barbara said earlier, it doesn't have to be like someone else's. It's really about tapping into what your body wants, because your body is going to tell you how to heal. It's just finding the key to unlock that knowledge.
Wow. Powerful, powerful. Thank you so much, Angie, for coming on. Thank you, Barbara, for bringing this queen. I mean, you give it. We rock the world with these women that coming on this show. I'm so excited. World changers. Yes, yes.
Thank you so much for having me. You two are amazing.
Yeah. You know, and it's so funny because we're virtual hugs here because we started kind of a little bit on a whim. And Barb said, "Gee, do you want to do a happiness show?" And I said, "Sure, I would love to do a happiness show, but I won't do it alone."
Yeah, she made that plain. She said no. She said, "I'll do it, but not alone. I need a co-host."
I want a co-host.
And I was like, "No, I want you to do it yourself." Because I was telling Barbara, I want you to be out there. People should know what you do. And you're like, yeah, but I need a host. I need a co-host with me. So it's been
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And look at all the lives you've changed.
Oh, see, See, now you're gonna make me cry, Angie. Don't do it. You're gonna make me cry. That's so
rock back and forth. Rock back and forth.
Okay, there we go. See, I'm telling you, it works. It works. So we're gonna have to bring you back too, Angie. So Barbara, make sure that we put that, on the list, because we want you to come back and play with us again. And please reach out to Angie. I mean, come play with her. The movements, it works. If you're feeling that you don't feel, doing that, she'll work with you. Like you said at the beginning, it might not feel, but as you do it continuously, this might be your thing to do. I just learned how to beat elephant now today, so I never would have thought that I was going to be doing that.
And if you do that, notice what changes inside of you. It really does. For me, I become like this, like my chest puffs out. I get to be this big, powerful person, and I can work with you at whatever physical, emotional, mental, whatever level you're at that moment, because we work to help you learn how to work with your body. There's no set agenda for me other than to help you learn what your body wants.
And be fine with where you are.
Yes.
Don't compare yourself to somebody else's progress.
Yes.
Are we hearing that? That's the theme for today. Do not compare yourself to somebody else's progress.
Yes.
And I'm speaking to myself here.
Most of the time when we say that outwardly, it's like it always comes back to us. So.
It comes back to us.
Wonderful, wonderful practice with that. So we will see everybody next week with another guest. And like I said, we'll be bringing Angie back on in the near future. So you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. And remember, as we always say, Barbara, make happiness what?
Make happiness the norm rather than the exception, because you deserve to lead a happy, healthy, financially free, abundant life.
There you go. Take care.